Предлагаю, наверное, начинать. Я надеюсь, что время уже пришло. Итак, меня зовут Александр Колчанов. Я очень долго занимался самостоятельно баг-баунти.
Hi, I'm Alexander Kolchanov, and I've been doing independent research and bug bounty for a long time, and I love talking about it.
Сейчас я работаю в ПСБ. Если хотите, приходите.
I'm working for PSB now, which will be Promsvest Bank. And if you're interested, please join us. We do have some interesting job opportunities. We shall be talking about phishing today.
Он выглядит так, что есть атакующий.
I guess everybody knows about classic phishing. And in classical phishing, the attacker will send a link to the victim to a fake website. It can be done via a message, an email, promotion on social media, or on search engines. So the naive victim will think that, okay, design-wise, it's very similar to the sites that they know, and the address as well, so he won't really check the security certificate. He will simply follow the link. So they won't check the certificates, they will enter their login and password, they may even send them money, and all the data will go to the hacker. Now let's assume that the hacker has been able to hack the official website and position the phishing form there. It's a similar scenario, but even the paranoid users who will effectively check the digital certificate of the website will still be defrauded. In this case, the user will never be able to distinguish between a real and a phishing page. Today we are going to discuss how this can be achieved, what are the typical attacks that get you there, and we'll also discuss several examples from bug bounty and the recent notorious cases as well. So the idea is like this. An attack is performed by the hacker, and he uploads a phishing form on the official website. And users tend to believe official websites, so they don't really check it. In fact, we can think the same way, not just about phishing, but also owning webinar pages or landing pages or airline booking sites. And lots of other scenarios as well. Because the more cunning the hacker is, the more horrible the attack will be and the more people will suffer. And let me actually tell you of some recent examples. So, somebody hacked a Yandex.Go group on vKontakte. And, they sent links to users to fake giveaways. And a different case, was with a Twitter, where announcements of some fraud were made. Another very funny and very old case. So the text here masquerades, as a text of disgruntled school kid who has not been able to pass his exams. But it could have just been, for example, a field where, say, an employee of the Unified State Exam System needs to enter his or her credentials. And, if this login and password is stolen, well, that's interesting for kids. Now, some people lose hundreds of rubles on Yandex. Others lose millions of dollars in BTC scams.
Много разных переводов многим людям, которые с ним никак договорами не связаны. И вообще, зачем тратить деньги?
companies often do not want to compensate them for losses, and very often they don't even have the infrastructure for that. What's also a problem is that most attacks, they actually seem pretty stupid. Look, check this out, for example. You know, this giveaway page, it looks horrible. You know, nobody has really prepared, the audience for that, which would be the case for proper giveaways. Like, in a week we are going to do that, please register, and so on and so forth. And design-wise, it's horrible. These scams are extremely simplistic and stupid, and maybe because of that, fortunately, there are not too many victims. Now let's discuss the kind of systems that can be hacked and the kind of problems this will create. So assume we have a company, and the company has a website, and they will probably communicate with their users using email campaigns. And we hope that this company has happy clients. Well, the reality is slightly different. There is a cloud, or maybe their internal network, and there is a server there, or more. Then some magic happens, and their clients get messages in social media, instant messages, or emails. And in reality, it would look like this. And we're not even showing their employees or their contractors or contractors' employees or contractors' partners and so on. So there is this cloud, sitting in this cloud, and numerous systems running some hardware, and they all have their vulnerabilities. Their internal network also has its holes and vulns. There is also a separate system for making outbound calls, sending messages, sending emails. There are also landing pages, and landing pages are often created not by professional programmers or information or cybersecurity experts, but rather by marketing people. There is also the tech support group, where users will want to discuss things that matter to them, where they may even disclose some sensitive information. And there are also industrial-specific services, and lots of things which I'm not even trying to show in this diagram. So all this communication with the user is not simple. There is some magic to it. There are aggregators, for example, which enable you to, manage all your communications with all sorts of IM systems and what have you for whatever, $1 a month. Which means that potential targets are very numerous. Any services that are effectively a touch point for the user. It could be a site hack. For example, a phishing page may be uploaded instead of your landing page, or your page on social media can be hacked, and you can start selling, say, memberships with a 90% discount, and then users will be really frustrated and will hate you for a reason. Or, for example, your messenger channel may be owned in order to advertise some Ponzi scheme, and your clients will be unhappy because they will lose their money over it. And then you can say, well, it's no problem for me, I wasn't involved, but does it really matter to them? Or about, they stole your account on an SMS gateway and just sent a harmless joke to everybody? With SMS gateways, you don't even have to hack the account. In large corporations, you will often be able to subscribe to their news updates, or you can request a link to an application or a product. And elements of this request will actually go into the SMS, and this is how you can actually send something more than a regular SMS text. You can also hack a CRM system or a ticketing system.
он может придумать что-то более интересное. Потому что я там, когда
Now,
готовился...
the more advanced a hacker is, the more interesting things he can design. For example, if you can hack your rival's CRM system, you can actually, send communications to your rival's clients that will appall them, and they will stop using their services. Very rarely will you see direct links to various web pages in SMS, in texts. Most of them are shortened, and lots of link shorteners are very shoddily programmed. Last year, for example, it was very easy to see an XSS vector through a link shortener. And this is how you would find it very easy to hack the account of the person in charge of marketing campaigns who would be using those link shorteners. And that's how you would be able to, lead huge traffic of people targeted by a particular marketing campaign to a fraudulent website. There are lots and lots of systems. They may have their vulnerabilities. It's not that all of them have huge holes in them, but there are so many of them, this would certainly be holes. There are also some special services. Some services will have logical issues. It will also be difficult for the user to identify whether a particular page really belongs to a particular company. Moreover, so many passwords are being leaked now, including passwords of people running those systems. There was, for example, this recently published vulnerability, was about a week ago. A pretty popular European service enabled you to get access to somebody else's site, when you substitute the password. And fortunately, it was geo-rewarded in a bug bounty program, but sometimes it happens differently. Another case of a subdomain takeover, where you can actually link a free subdomain to your account. So, for example, you have a cloud service for creation of landing pages. You follow the instructions, you create the domain, you create subdomains, then you change the account information. But then, say, 2 months later, you forget to pay for this service, your account will be blocked, and then, which is very often the case, the domain will stop linking to a page because it hasn't been paid for, and it can be relinked. In the worst possible case, you have a valid digital certificate associated with this page, which gives the hacker a great opportunity for phishing. Like, we forgot about subdomain, we have been using it for 10 years, and we realized it's no longer needed. Or maybe the employee who was responsible for it, he resigned, and we don't really know how many subdomains were there. Or maybe the subscription is over. Or, for some reasons, this international service has decided to delete your account. Now somebody else should be able to link the same page to themselves. Or maybe you've just started using this service, you've created a domain, you haven't been able to add enough subdomains, and they've already been hijacked. And it's happening because these attacks are very easy to automate. This is a very well-known repository of nuclei templates, and it contains lots of automated checks that should enable better cyber squatting. Please note that this repository is primarily developed by US and European authors. That's why many popular Russian services are not there. And when a European internet store will very quickly learn that their subdomain may be stolen, a Russian store may easily operate for like 2 or 3 years without learning about it. And this is where problems start.
мало кто этим интересуется, потому что компании не особо хотят за это платить. Потому что кто-то
Very
считает,
often,
что нет
companies
прямого
don't
ущерба.
show much interest in it because, some of them may think there is no direct damage to them.
Получил доступ к 3
I recently
одной из крупнейших
got
российских
access
компаний.
to 3 subdomains of a largest Russian company. And as part of the bug bounty program, they paid me 13,000 rubles, which is less than $200. Which means that, you can actually publish something on the website of the largest Russian company. You will have valid certificates. And, with the amount of money you will be able to get for it, you won't even be able to pay for your participation in page days.
Любой крупной старой компании есть очень много
Any major company,
сервисов, или которые
if it has been around for a long time, will have lots of services which are not very popular or totally outdated. And they will contain some XSS, some simple issues, and there should be ways of manipulating content there. And often, they're not even mentioned in the bug bounty program because, say, was some news site that was established 5 years ago and has not been updated since then.
Откуда пользователь вообще знает, что сайт не актуален?
But how do the users know this is the case? We may bring the user there with a phishing campaign. We may tell them, register here, get a bonus, and they will think, okay, it seems credible, the address seems to be okay, why not?
Еще очень большая проблема. Это используемые внешние сервисы.
There is another issue, that is external services, which may often be captured.
Довольно простые проблемы. Иногда можно раскопать.
And they're often ridden with some simple problems
or
issues. And again, there will be lots of logical issues there. Particularly if, they do some email campaigns or SMS campaigns, often you can actually abuse them to send letters as if from different
Или, например, просто какой-нибудь очень простой перебор SMS-кода, который позволяет захватить какой-нибудь довольно важный аккаунт администратора на этом сайте.
Or you can do, exhaustive search and effectively hijack the site administrator account. Now let's talk about password leaks and weak passwords. This is this particular case from the bug bounty program. The password there was pretty difficult, and the login was not obvious. However, the manager of the SMM agency decided to use Notion to store passwords. And, they inadvertently published a link to this page. So I found it, I checked that the password was valid, and this is how I got access to 3 subdomains of this, huge Russian corporation. How come we see so many really dumb leaks? Well, one is that most companies have too much data, so much data. They keep updating passwords to ever-growing number of servers. They need to be stored somewhere, and need to be administered. And it may easily happen that, you have huge turnover of employees, and generating unique passwords for everybody is difficult. How about we just store it all in Notion? Many employees don't care about passwords. As long as, these passwords do not really protect their bank accounts, they are negligent. Same often happens to contractors, who tend to store their passwords in a weird way. What's also funny is, how many cloud services are greedy. Let's consider Notion, which I love so much. So on Notion, for free, you can get a space, and you will be able to edit it. And your guests, up to 5, will be able to read but not edit. If you have more people working for you, you will either need to register a professional account so that you should be able to add editors or make it public. Many people, prefer to save $4 a month, or maybe, they cannot really pay dollars right now given the sanctions. So they make the internal documents public. And if you want to make some pages particularly, critical and sensitive, you'll need to pay even more.
Возникает еще одна проблема, что утекает очень много данных, но непонятно,
So a lot of data gets
где именно они
leaked.
появятся и когда.
It's not clear, however,
Во-первых, нам требуется анализировать очень много
where
источников.
this data will go
Я
and
этим
when.
достаточно долго занимаюсь.
Because, so many sources really need to be analyzed. I've been doing it for a long time, and I can give you the statistics.
Утекших документов,
For every million documents leaked and analyzed manually, roughly 20,000 will be interesting, and roughly 1,000 will contain passwords.
например, там 100 из них это какие-то
And roughly 100
либо от компаний,
will contain passwords to, interesting services or for, assets of companies that offer bug bounty programs. So
возможно, очень серьезные последствия.
1% roughly contains something interesting, and 1% of that contains something interesting, commercially speaking.
Часто надо вообще догадаться, а где нам искать утечки. Потому что
very often people don't even know where to look for leaks. So we have documents and they are saying cloud services. But your employee, for example, may publish their login and password in a Telegram channel. Don't ask me why they did it, but this is what happened. This is how, somebody made some money in a bug bounty program from an email campaign service. The composition of a cloud storage service changes every day. Take, for example, this case of the Russian company. I just chanced upon it. So I was going through some space on Notion. I found nothing interesting, but I forgot to close it. So I opened the same tab like 2 months later, I update it, and I see there are passwords now there. Had I just, checked it and closed it, I would have never found it. So the big question is, are you really sure that the perpetrators do not have access to a cloud system, even if nothing has changed there yet? Like, it may very well be that, I got, the password to it, but there is nothing critical there. And, as a hacker, I'm just waiting for you to upload something interesting there. The problem is that, you won't really get full-fledged system logs in most corporations. Some companies are running system logs, but they're not doing it the right way. And it can actually lead to even more serious issues than a potential hack. For example, if your not so serious site gets hacked, and then you decided to find whoever is responsible for the leak, and you turn to the police, and the police asks for logs, and they inspect the logs, and it turns out that, an ID for your employee was not really shown there properly. That, for example, a secretary or a manager or administrator or a manager, didn't configure their account properly. And, they may have to pay pretty dearly for this, even if they were not responsible. In some services, you simply cannot force the users to change their password. With some services, all you can do is kindly remind the users to change their password. Well, they will say, yes, sure. Maybe they will add 1 to their password and keep it like that. As a white hat or a researcher, you need to make such an effort to find the leaks. Well, this is good, because this means that, hackers also have a hard time. Unfortunately for us, not all services are so bad. Some of them actually are well protected. And quite often, you will not be able to steal anything in a single go. What if a particular email service is indeed broken? If it's a classical subdomain takeover, you can delete the subdomain. And several days or hours later, the malicious subdomain, the malicious content will not be there. Now, what if it's an emailing campaign service? If your account gets taken over, it's effectively being run now by the fraudsters. They are advertising to your bona fide client, telling you cannot stop it. You turn to the support service, and several days later, they may respond, please send in some proof that you really own this account. Somehow we don't believe you. And if you are not lucky, and you reside in a country that's laboring under sanctions, and for some reason you are still using a service provided by a company which observes all the existing rules to a T, chances are they're not even going to help you. Now let's talk not just about users and clients, but also about employees, because employees obviously are a great target for phishing. And attacks targeting employees have some peculiar features. Well, first, your employees will be using all sorts of weird services. They like chats, for example. Large corporations, some of them are still using ICQ. Can you imagine that? And they're still using ICQ to communicate with their contractors. Some of these services, by the way, are used unofficially. Most of Notion pages, by the way, are not really created by a specially trained employee, but rather by a manager who is tired of storing all data in Confluence, and they want to have a convenient, elegant interface. And naturally, all employees have different levels of security awareness. If it's a cybersecurity employee, probably you won't be able to dupe him with a simple invitation to test, a new service out. But if it's a courier who has been, who's really tired after a long day, and then he's informed in a chat that has been taken over that if you do not, fill out a form explaining why you're late, you will be fined 500 rubles. They will be happy to provide all the information, all their creds, without checking what the site looks like. So your company may be very serious about security, but unofficially, employees will choose something different for their convenience. Well, official systems will often be as vulnerable as unofficial systems. The problem is that you at least know what the official systems are. It may happen, for example, that a password to a cloud system is leaked and you don't even know it has been in use, and there may be lots and lots of interesting goodies there. And it can be used to mass bomb or mass communicate to your clientele. I love chats, particularly chats on Telegram. So many IT companies have open public chats. Some of these chats are public for a reason, but most by mistake. Looking for them on Telegram is not trivial, because they do have their own ways of protecting against brute forcing.
И вы найдете какой-нибудь чат, в котором просто открытым текстом лежат пароли.
So you may want to look for a particular chat that contains the passwords.
И из моего любимого это проблемы, связанные с тем, что многие трекеры системы планирования позволяют вам создавать.
Now, many trackers and planning systems will enable you to create tasks simply by sending letters to them.
Но, как мы знаем,
Guys, I see that my system is being accessed. This is no fun. Please do not screw up my working process as an interpreter. Thank you very much. So you can create, various tasks, and that will represent how creative you are. For example, you can ask for access to be provided to a particular employee, or you can send a letter asking for help in preparing a conference or something. phishing. So this is it, for, knowledge databases and what have you. But it can also be, some proprietary system. And in Google Documents and in KMSs or knowledge management systems, very often, if you get access to a particular document, you will have more than just writing privileges. And for example, what you can do is add a phishing link. So this employee, for example, has always been using this link, and he won't really care to double check it, and the link will take him to a phishing site. Typical issues that many companies will experience. For example, if you see that a particular document has been leaked and you have deleted it and you were hoping that people would, change the password, but they never did it. So it may very well be that, there is this password in the cloud which must have been leaked. And, people may still try using it. Or, for example, a new employee gets hired, he gets access to internal services or cloud-based services, and there, in plain text, they will be able to see passwords to all the services in use. Now, you may say this is horrible and this is a very low probability event, but it isn't. Or, for example, you've retained some marketing people, and they're using the same account details for you as well as 50 other companies they are working with. And then, by mistake, they give this password to the other clients, who are, it's just a happenstance, your rivals. And they will want to spoil your day. So, let's play a bingo game to entertain you a little bit. You may recognize some of the recent incidents here. Despite everything I've been telling you about, and you may have made the conclusion that third-party services are buggy, this is not really the case. The times when we could say, an employee has an email and phone and everything can be hacked and every hosting, every cloud service provider can be hacked. These times are over. We now need to be much more systemic because of the sheer amount of data. There are still loads of weird vulnerabilities and leaks, but breaking them is no longer that easy. Thanks for your attention. I should be able to take your questions now. I have delivered my presentation much faster than I expected, so I will be very happy to hear your questions.
Ну ладно, видимо, вопросов нет. Тогда всем спасибо.
Подождите.
Apparently no more questions. Wait a second. I'm here to your left, over there.
Даниил, добрый день. Большое спасибо.
I'm Daniel Marchishin.
Скажите, может быть, по вашему опыту, насколько проведение фишинговых учений
In your experience,
рассылки со стороны компаний, насколько оно может снизить
to what extent it can actually allow the risk that an employee of the company will actually follow the link and will enter some details or whatever? Well, I don't have personal experience in this respect, but some stats I can share with you. Often the problem is that, this phishing classes tends to irritate users, although they're useful. And during classes like this, they often create domains that seem to be very different from the real ones. And the attacks I've been telling you about, they're more advanced because the user actually has got no way of checking if it's a phishing site or not, because, you can even see the certificate there. And you can check with your colleague if it's the real site or not. And the number of people who are actually going to talk to, the cybersecurity department is actually very limited. So what I'm trying to say is that against such attacks, it's probably not going to help. Hi, I have another question. Yes, I can see you. So we've been talking about regular phishing, and we've been talking also about, more advanced things like email campaigns and what have you. Naturally, there are also two-factor authentication in other systems, and on GitHub, you can find at least two utilities that should enable reverse phishing. So what can we do about it? How do we make sure that, our employees, don't get defrauded like this? But most importantly, you need to control what's happening to the corporate resources. This should enable you to defend against, well, at least the really stupid attacks on the website of the company. And you should also delineate access and, use the minimum privileges rule, because sooner or later, any company, large or small, will have the admin's password leaked.
Как раз по поводу обхода двухэтапной авторизации.
And as regards two-factor authentication, yes, well, you can bypass it. And these tools, in my opinion, do not really undermine the trust in it. So I think the same principle sort of applies here.
Когда вы создаете сайт, который максимально
when you create a website,
все этапы двухэтапной авторизации, оно на самом деле немного похоже на то, что я рассказывал на официальном сайте, потому что в целом...
it's similar to what I was talking about.
Прошу прощения, что в целом мы, наверное,
I'm sorry, it's taking me time.
копируем все защитные механизмы и максимально лишаем...
So we're effectively copying all the protective mechanisms,
Поэтому, как бы я сказал, да, там
and the users don't really get to check, which website they're in. So minimum privileges, continuous control, and thinking about what you're going to do if things break, they should still be reliable ways of protecting yourself. Thank you very much for this report. Can you share with us, cases of the stupidest and the most creative phishing attempts? The most creative ones, I remember, are about, crypto scams, in fact. So there is this service associated for real with some company, and it contained a password to some admin panel and a password to some exchange, crypto exchange. So you go there, you see $700, and it says that, you can actually withdraw money as long as, above 1,000. I've heard it was possible, but I was surprised to see it in the wild. An elegant job, I think. Dumb phishing? There is a lot of it. And these are the examples I previously showed, because attackers have got so many opportunities, because they often get access to huge databases of people to defraud, and for some reason, they're not doing anything creative. They're just telling each of these people to give them 300 rubles because they badly need it. I'm surprised they're not creative enough. Do we have other questions? Hi, thank you very much for your report. My name is Yegor. My question is about passwords. There is this opinion that if you keep changing your passwords, it doesn't really make things better, because users tend to simplify their passwords going forward. And they often say that if you want to combat it, you should actually compare the passwords that they are choosing to the databases of leaked passwords and demand that they change them if there is a match. Do you think it's a good idea?
Спасибо, хороший вопрос. Я бы сказал, что да.
Thank you very much. It's a good question. I think I should answer that indeed, frequent change of passwords does result in them getting dumber. And indeed, there are good services that help you check if such a password has been leaked. However, I think it should be combined with password change if this particular password has been indeed compromised, or if the person who had access to it has resigned and is no longer bound by any obligations. So the problem may well be that, we had a single password, it was pretty strong, but now 10 people have resigned and we don't really know who else knows this password.
Проверка пароля по базам утекших паролей.
A password check against the databases of leaked passwords tends to increase the strength of passwords you're using because all the simple passwords have already been leaked. So QWERTY 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will be out of question.
Ладно, видимо, больше желающих задать вопросы нет.
Apparently, nobody wants to ask questions. So let me hand you the t-shirts.